Hi, my name is John.
And my name is Lloyd.
And we're the hosts of The Pint,
a pop culture podcast.
Lloyd, if you had to tell any of the people out there that might be listening to The Pint for the first time about anything unsavory or disconcerting we might do on the show, what would you warn them about?
Well, sometimes we drop spoilers, and sometimes we swear like
motherfucking sailors. Fuck yeah, we do.
When leaving the theater, we suggest that the exit at the front of the auditorium will allow you easier access to the parking areas. Thank you.
They have murder boners for this kid.
It's already over budget, Mike.
Yeah. I put the Instagram of me watching the DVD the other night, and he's like, burn it when you're done.
This is a really bad IMDb summary.
Okay.
Yes, Dante's Peak is worse than Volcano.
Shut up.
Dante's Peak is worse.
You don't need to start fights here, John. Shut up.
It's dumb.
No.
All right, I get excited.
We're back, motherfuckers. This is our podcast now. I'm Mike Field, and you're listening
Mike Butler.
to the Forgotten Cinema's takeover of The Pint. This episode, we're highlighting a film that, for a variety of reasons, was forgotten by audiences. Whether it be because a more popular movie was released at the same time, or the movie simply didn't catch on with an audience in its initial run. We'll be joined by the Pint's own John Amenta, and all of us will discuss what we love about the movie, or perhaps don't love about it, but we'll always recommend you revisit it. If you enjoy this episode, you can find more Forgotten Cinema on all podcast platforms, but not for long. No, they'll still be there. Hey, what's going on, John?
What's going on, man? Hey, this is it. 8th of 8 takeovers this year.
Wow, I can't believe that's yes, indeed. I forgot about the first four.
For the first four, I think we recorded in the early part of the year, and those were put out in Forgotten February. So I think we did those between January 1st and 31st or whatever.
I think so, yeah.
Or I think we might have recorded the last one like in February because we were running a little bit behind, and then we did our second little batch there, ending with this, and also the last Pint episode of the year. So it's
excellent.
You guys are giving your show up. This is the last Pint of the year, 8th takeover episode. There's so much shit going on in this episode right now.
If there's tears to be shed, we'll make sure we'll choke them back. All right, Butler, what are we doing today?
We are doing the 1983 Robert Ludlum based movie, the Osterman Weekend.
Robert Ludlum based? Is this about his life?
It is. This is everything. Everything he puts out is autobiographical. He is
I thought so.
The Bourne Legacy. An outspoken television personality, John Tanner, has an annual tradition of going away with 3 college buddies. However, when Tanner is informed that these friends, Bernard Osterman, Richard Tremaine, and Joseph Cardone, are part of a Soviet spy network, it adds considerable conflict to their getaway, a tension heightened by an enigmatic spy named Lawrence Fassett, who has unclear motives.
Ooh. So the Osterman Weekend has a runtime of 103 minutes. It's rated R, production budget of $6.5 million. Its wide release date was November 4th, 1983, and its opening weekend it did $1.4 million. Domestic and worldwide are the same, although I know it came out internationally. I could not find those numbers anywhere. So, but its total gross is 6.4 million. So I don't know if that's domestic and international together, just domestic, but I know it came out internationally. But again, sometimes you just can't get that info. Production company was Davis Panzer Productions and Osterman Weekend Associates, and distributed by 20th Century Fox. Said it came out on the 4th of November, 1983. It went up against in a wide release Deal of the Century, and a limited release running Brave and Testament. The week after the 11th, Veterans Day, you had a limited release of Star 80. And the week before, October 28th, you had a wide release of Richard Pryor, Here and Now, which is obviously a concert film, and the movie All the Right Moves, and then a limited release of Possession. And I'm going to guess that everyone here only has seen All the Right Moves. Is that correct?
Yep.
I've certainly seen that. Yes. Yeah.
Do any of the other movies that said, did any ring a bell?
Yes. Cause I actually saw Deal of the Century in the theaters with my dad. Ooh. It was Chevy Chase, Sigourney Weaver, arms dealers. And it was one of those movies that I think my dad took me to as a kid because Chevy Chase, and you figure the broad humor, and it's not really a broad humor kind of movie. It's more of maybe like a little bit of a darker comedy. I've never seen it again since then. And it's one of those movies that, boy, if you hadn't brought it up tonight, right now, I don't know when the last time I heard about it was.
Yeah.
Possession sounded familiar.
Possession. I think there's another movie that came out more recently called Possession.
Okay.
And I think that was like about, it was almost like it wasn't a horror movie, but it was like some kind of sexual thriller or something like that.
I'm thinking of the Sam Neill Possession that came out in 1981.
There you go. Well, this is 83. Maybe this is a re-release.
Oh, maybe.
Maybe. All right. So this movie is directed by Sam Peckinpah, which actually this is my very first Sam Peckinpah film. I know of the other stuff that I've seen. I've seen bits and pieces of The Wild Bunch and whatnot, but I've never watched a full Sam Peckinpah film straight through.
The Wild Bunch is fucking incredible.
Yeah.
The Wild Bunch is, I've never seen much. Well, I know he did, what's the one with Dustin Hoffman? Straw Dogs.
Straw Dogs. Yep.
I've only seen the remake of that, but Wild Bunch, the Wild Things too is very tantalizing. But the Wild Bunch is definitely worth seeking out.
Butler, what episode were we talking about Wild Things? I can't remember.
The episode before last.
Last
And we
Starfighter.
brought it up before.
Yeah,
I think Last Starfighter. Yeah.
Okay, interesting.
Or maybe even
I don't remember because we talked about it somewhere. Okay, so Sam Peckinpah, as John has said, did The Wild Bunch. He actually was nominated for an Oscar for writing The Wild Bunch. He's also done Straw Dogs and the 1972 movie The Getaway, which they remade in the 90s, I believe, with Alec Baldwin. This was, as Butler said, this is based on the novel of the same name by Robert Ludlum. He is more famously known for the Jason Bourne books and the movies that are based upon those. The adaptation of this film is Ian Masters, whose only other credit is the technical advisor on Chain Reaction. He's got other credits, but that was the one I figured people would know. And when I say adaptation, what I'm saying is that Masters developed the groundwork for the script. So he knows a lot about conspiracy theories, like he was in that world. So he kind of laid that groundwork. And then Alan Sharp was hired to work on the characters and dialogue. So the screenplay credit goes to Alan Sharp, who has done The Year of Living Dangerously and the movie Rob Roy. Cinematographer was John Colquhoun, or I probably said that wrong. He did The Changeling, Straw Dogs, and Cross of Iron. Composer was Lalo Schifrin, who was nominated for an Oscar for Cool Hand Luke, The Fox, Voyage of the Damned, and The Amityville Horror, all four of those movies. He also did The Competition and The Sting 2. Edited by Edward Abrams and David Rawlings. Abrams was nominated for an Oscar for editing Blue Thunder and the movie. He also did the movie Street Fighter. Do you remember Blue Thunder? I don't know, John. I'm gonna bet you saw it.
I love Blue Thunder.
Yeah,
Blue Thunder is a planned episode next year on the Pint because it will be celebrating its 40th.
Underrated. Butler, you never saw it, right?
I've only seen bits and pieces, like one time.
Underrated, right, John?
Oh, absolutely. Roy Scheider. I love Roy Scheider.
He's great.
And it's a good action thriller. And, at 7 or 8 years old when I saw it, you pull that piece of hardware out of the sky.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to get any kid that's into all kids are kind of at that point in their life, especially in the early 80s, into G.I. Joe, into the wartime kind of toys. And you have Blue Thunder, which is incredible.
Like the silent helicopter patrolling LA. Yeah.
Yep.
Rollins has edited Saturday Night Fever and The China Syndrome, another good movie. Produced by Peter S. Davies and William N. Panzer. Davies has produced. They're producing partners, and they basically have done the Highlander movies and the TV show, the Highlander TV show. Those are primarily their credits. This film stars Rutger Hauer as John Tanner from Blade Runner, The Hitcher, and Batman Begins. John Hurt as Lawrence Fassett, nominated for 2 Oscars, one for The Elephant Man and the other for Midnight Express. He's also in 1984 and the movie Alien, and obviously Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. I wanted to throw that out there since we did that. Right? Craig T. Nelson as Bernard Osterman, who's in Poltergeist, The Family Stone, and the TV show Coach. Dennis Hopper as Richard Tremaine, nominated for 2 Oscars, one for Easy Rider and the other for Hoosiers. He's also in Blue Velvet, which is a Forgotten Cinema episode that we did many seasons ago. Chris Sarandon as Joseph Cardone, who was nominated for an Oscar for Dog Day Afternoon. He's also in the original Fright Night, and he appears as a cameo in the 2011 Fright Night. And I did not know this. I always thought Danny Elfman was just the voice and the singing voice, but he's actually the voice of Jack Skellington for Nightmare Before Christmas. I didn't realize that was Chris Sarandon.
Yeah, I just found that out like weeks ago.
Yeah.
What?
I've known that for years, but yeah, Chris Sarandon is the speaking voice and Danny Elfman is the singing voice.
I just assume Elfman did all of it, but
yep.
Hey, you never know. I thought that was you learn something new every day.
That's right.
Meg Foster is Allie Tanner, who is John Tanner's wife. She's in They Live, Masters of the Universe, of course, and The Lords of Salem, which is, we all know her from Masters of the Universe, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Burt Lancaster as Maxwell Danforth, who won an Oscar for Elmer Gantry. He's also been nominated for the movies Atlantic City, Birdman of Alcatraz, and From Here to Eternity. Then you had Helen Shaver as Virginia Tremaine, which was Richard Tremaine's wife, Dennis Hopper's character. She's in the 1979 Amityville Horror and the TV show Poltergeist: The Legacy, which I've never heard of. It has like 60-something episodes. And she's a producer. She produces a lot of TV now. And then Cassie Yates as Betty Cardone, the wife of Chris Sarandon's character, Joseph Cardone, and she's in Rolling Thunder and Unfaithfully Yours. Okay. So is it safe to say that none of us have seen this film? Or, John, have you seen this film?
No, never saw it.
So I never saw this movie. I never heard about it. Like I said, I know of Sam Peckinpah, but I have not ever watched a lot of Sam Peckinpah movies. And this is his last movie because he passes away shortly after. I always like to kick off like initial thoughts. So I'll start with our guest, Mike. John, what did you, what's the first thing that jumped out at you while you were watching it? It doesn't have to be the worst thing, but what's the first thing?
The opening scene, I was pretty sure we were in trouble. This was not going to be a great movie. So yeah, it starts off with the very early 80s soft jazz soundtrack.
Classic. And
then we careen into a John Hurt sex scene that nobody's ever asked for, John,
until now.
John Hurt isn't, he at the time he was probably in his 40s. He's not an unfit man or anything, but he's just not one of those Hollywood stars that you ever said, man, I got to see this guy getting down. And we see him getting down. We see his bare ass. We see a scene where he takes a shower where my note was, has John Hurt ever taken a shower before? Because he turns the shower on while he's standing in it. That's a psychopath move. And then he's like holding himself, like kind of screaming at one point.
Yeah, well, I didn't get that.
The shower was so cold.
Yeah.
But that's why you fucking turn it on when you're outside of it.
I think he's one of those weirdos that takes cold showers.
Okay, well, step into a cold shower. Don't
like in real life? Like in real life, Butler, or just like this for his character?
I think this character.
That might be in the book, maybe.
And they were like, "Oh, the shower's cold, so you're shocked." Yeah, and that was his shocked shower face.
Do you know if we watched? Did we watch the director's cut? Because there is a director's cut, and I don't know if we watched it or not.
I did not, because I read what's in the director's cut.
Yeah, we did not watch the director's cut.
Okay.
Yeah, I watched the regular cut. I think I rented it on Prime. But yeah,
me too.
My initial thought, no, you didn't. You streamed it. You pirate.
John.
You pirate. It's okay. They can't cancel your show. You quit.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, I don't know. I just felt like from the opening scene, I thought, all right, this movie's going to be this movie feels very dated, and let's see where this goes. And unfortunately for me, it didn't really get any better from that point forward. Mm-hmm. Very convoluted. This movie's very fucking convoluted.
We can get into that. Butler, how about you? What do you think?
I had the same thoughts. The opening scene was kind of cheesy. The death scene was cheesy. Throughout it, the whole time, I'm just going, what is going on? Am I stupid? Or does this plot just make no logical sense whatsoever? And I think it might be a little bit of both.
I was very confused story-wise, just as it went along. I was kind of following along. Okay, I see what we're doing here. That in terms of just him saying that these guys are part of Omega, and then once they started getting to the house, I got very confused, and I didn't know what was happening, and I didn't understand. I thought maybe there was a disconnect between Peckinpah's directing style and me. I thought that some stuff just ended, some stuff didn't match up. I know that there's a note that he got fired in the post because they wanted him to change stuff. They wanted him to cut out the sex scene in the beginning. They wanted him to change up other things. He said no, and they just fired him.
Right.
So I don't know, where the edit comes in terms of like, why am I not connecting with this film? Go ahead, Mike.
We'll get into it, but the facts that I read said that like the most significantly changed parts are the beginning and end. So the stuff in the house was probably pretty similar, and a lot of it didn't match up, and it doesn't explain exactly. Like, I don't understand the setup for the friends. Like, Tanner's got his friends there. He thinks they're Soviet spies, but they're not Soviet spies. But they're definitely working with the Soviets because there's definitely a Russian and there's definitely a Swiss.
No, they're tax evaders.
I get that, but like, it doesn't make any fucking sense. It just
I agree. I had to read. So the next day after watching this, I read the Wikipedia. synopsis, and then I read like the trivia, and like Butler says, like, yeah, so they're supposed, you think the idea is you think they're these undercover Soviet agents, but like you said, Field, they're just tax evaders. I didn't fall asleep during this movie. I watched this movie in one sitting, and I sat there and went, I don't remember them ever clearly defining what was happening here in terms of like the twist moment. Other than there's a moment of twist at the end where you kind of learn that the Hurt character is the puppet master and he's not being so straightforward. But like, yeah, they throw in this extra Russian character and all the friends are acting very suspiciously. And then the other half of it too is like, I didn't buy these guys as friends because even before everything started, they go to his house and there's just immediate, like, it just seems like there's immediate, like, I don't want you here. I don't want to be here vibes.
Well, they both are setting each other. They think they're setting each other up, but like, if it's just tax evasion, are you bringing a fucking gun to his wife and child? It just like escalate and killing his dog. It escalates ridiculously.
Well, the joke of killing his dog, yeah,
it makes no sense.
It doesn't. That was one of my notes. Why are these guys friends? I don't understand. Like, you know, he comes over, they're playing this made up game in the pool, and his buddy Joe kicks his dog because he's mad because
you kick the dog. Get the fuck out of my house.
I don't understand. I really didn't understand the relationship. And to go back to the Russian character, there was I want to. This is what I'm thinking. They're saying that this guy helped them evade, like launder their money. This guy helped them move their money out of, you know, into Switzerland, out of United States. That's why I think that character comes in for. But the character that Craig T. Nelson is talking to is
John Hurt.
Yes, and they never really. I could tell by his voice it was him, and they never really revealed it.
I could too. And then at the end, when John Hurt is kind of revealing his master plan, he shows that video, and I thought, oh, this is where he turns around and you see it's John Hurt with like a beard on or something.
And he does the puppet master thing he did.
Yeah. And it doesn't fucking happen.
No, I know.
Yeah, this was poorly put together, and it's muddy. This movie is murky as fuck. Murky as fuck.
Well, some of the notes I had was that Peckinpah asked if he could do a rewrite, and he did. And then the producers didn't like it, so they just said no more revisions. And even the screenwriter Sharp.
That's my favorite note, though.
Yeah, he doesn't even like the script, and he doesn't even know why they used it, because he must have submitted them a rough draft. Hey,
it was a spec strip. It was a rough draft,
and they're like, "We're gonna go with this," and he's like, "Wait, it's not done." Like, so, like he doesn't even like the movie, and he wrote it. So I don't. So clearly. This feels, because I know the producers this was their first serious movie. Like, they were doing B movies before this, and they were trying to find a vehicle that they would be taken seriously moving forward. So, and that's why they worked with Peckinpah, because Peckinpah did this film. This was supposed to be his comeback film. Nobody wanted to work with him because he was just so, you know, hard to work with. Obviously, drugs and alcohol have taken a toll on him at this point. He's in ill health during the movie.
He's dying while they're making the movie. They said he had to stop repeatedly and go take naps.
Yeah.
Like while they would like do a setup or something, he would go sleep until they were done and then come back.
Yeah. So people on set believed he was dying, but they risked that. The producers just gambled because they were trying to put something together that would give them some clout. And what we got was a big mess.
Super big mess. I don't know, like, if you're going to ask me this or not later, but I just wanted to put it out there that when we did this second series of takeover episodes, I just gave you a bunch of movies. The reason I put this movie on there is because the video store that I went to as a kid, Our Video in Middletown, Connecticut, had the poster hanging up for this forever. And Mandela effect, because I even think I said it to you last time. I said on the poster, it's got it has a picture of Rutger Hauer with a compound bow and arrow. So I thought this is like some kind of cool action film. Not only is it not, but then I go back and look at the poster before we do this episode. The poster is actually Meg Foster. It's not even Rutger Hauer. So I mean, I think what I was sold on that poster was not what we ended up getting. The truth of the matter is that, okay, you know what? It's not some kind of action movie. It's a cool spy thriller. No, it's not.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's not. So I lost both ways.
Yeah. I'm trying to figure out what I can't. It's like this is the thing. The movie couldn't articulate a lot of things, and I can't articulate what I feel about it. Like I want to like it. Like I like older films, obviously, and I don't mind how the film looks because I'm used to older films, especially the ones that last, like when you catch them now because people keep talking about them, that they're good. But this movie reminded me of films that we did, Butler, the Star Chamber. It's the same time frame.
Yeah, but Star Chamber was good.
No. I know that. I'm saying like this movie reminds me of that. It reminds me of the Parallax View, which is probably a few years earlier in the late 70s. It reminds me of those conspiracy theory movies that were rampant in the 70s and early 80s.
Yeah, Three Nights at the Condor.
Right, but it's just all over the place, and it has no real message. It's just Facet, who's the John Hurt character, and he wants revenge. And the reason why I bring him up is because I don't understand. Like, they don't tell you how he figures anything out. You know what I mean? He just finds out.
Apparently, it's been years that he's been trying to figure it out.
Yes.
I was gonna say, you said there's no theme, but they fucking like punch you in the face with it at the end with turn off the TV.
That's
you're a movie.
That's tagged on. That's a throw. That's just thrown on there at the end for no reason.
Yeah, because that's what I was just about to say, Butler, in a way, was so the whole movie is Danforth had Facet's wife killed, right? And while she's slowly masturbating. And through some Russian assassins, and he figures this out finally. That's why he's the bad guy. But then he's going after Danforth and John Tanner. John Tanner, the way they set him up in your description and in what you think he's supposed to be in this movie is like almost like a Rush Limbaugh-y type character, this hyper political, kind of controversial journalist, and you don't really even get that from him.
No.
But then in the end, it's supposed to be like he's taking his vengeance out on misinformation and television journalism. Like, where the fuck did that come from?
And where did he get the video? How did he get the video of his wife? Like, how? Like, I can understand if he tracks down the KGB guys and they tell him no, it was a contract, and he figures that out. How are you getting the video? Somebody from inside the CIA gave it to you.
Yeah.
So don't explain that. But all of a sudden you have the video. It's convenient. It's convenient.
Also, how does Tanner find Facet at the end? In a where does he get the helicopter and this this suit? How does Craig T. Nelson's character get into the other facility and he becomes his producer / director?
All of a sudden, he's just his producer. Yeah. All of a sudden, camera 5, camera 2.
What happened to the director? What happened to that lady director from the beginning? Where'd she go? All of a sudden, it's him. It's like, sorry, sir, aren't you a TV writer from down the street in a different studio? Yeah, I'm taking over this time, though.
A better question about Craig T. Nelson's character is why is it every time he goes into action mode, it becomes slow motion and he makes bear noises?
Oh, tiger and bear sounds.
That's Peckinpah, because Peckinpah is big on the Foley stuff in the action, like the glass breaking and everything. That's definitely Peckinpah. But how about, why is Craig T. Nelson wearing a skull cap in the pool? Why is he wearing a winter hat? What is going on here? We're not supposed to know he's going bald. It's fine, Nelson. It's fine.
Yeah,
I dig that mustache though.
Glued on. That mustache is glued on.
The mustache the director hates. Yeah. I was disappointed when I saw that note because one of my first notes is that's an impressive fucking mustache, coach.
And then I'm wondering, did he just show up? I think I want to wear a mustache. I think I'm going to do a mustache here. Did he just show up and just go with that?
Peckinpah hated it, so. Also, he takes karate at his local dojo, right? And he's taking out special forces guy. He's dead from hand-to-hand combat, sir.
Yeah, that special forces guy is terrible. He's just basically hiding behind the tree. He's just like, oh, he's close.
Please don't find me. Please don't find me. Please don't find me.
So last year on the Pint, we did The Way of the Gun, the Christopher McQuarrie film. Mm-hmm. And this movie reminded me of that because in that we joked about how James Caan is this kind of mobster, and all of his crew, all of his muscle are all 52 and older guys. And in this, Facet's crew of CIA guys are all fat old guys.
Stuntmen.
Yeah.
Let's give me a couple stuntmen. Let me just generic white guys and mustaches stuntmen. That's what I need.
Fucking mess. This movie's a mess, man.
Butler, what else you got for me?
Man.
How about this? I got something.
Okay.
Did you guys think that the wives knew about their tax evasion?
I think Cokie wife knew.
Yeah.
Cookie wife was going nuts.
That's one of my favorite lines in the movie when he's like, well, I got a wife. He's got a wife with a nose problem. I'm like, yes.
I hate to, like I like to usually take credit for like having my own great thoughts or jokes if I have those once in a while. But I read Letterboxd the day after I watched this, and I was reading some of the reviews, and one of them put it like so succinctly. It said that this movie operates on a level of early 80s television intrigue. That's it. This is not like a major motion picture. This just feels like an episode of Dallas or Dynasty or some bullshit that would have played back then. Because to have stakes, you got to understand what's going on. And like you said, do the wives know what's going on? Why is he trying to get everybody to double cross everybody when it doesn't seem to be the end game for him?
Yeah, it doesn't matter. And then he blows everybody up for no reason.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Just be like, hey, I need to expose this guy. He killed my wife. Show him the video of them killing your wife, and you're good to go.
Basically, he's trying to get Danforth. He wants to kill. He wants to show. He wants to expose Danforth for who he is. So then, why don't you just go to Tanner and say, like, I've got this information?
That's Tanner's whole shtick is to expose government conspiracy.
I don't get that, and I also do not. I absolutely hate the scene when Facet's on the TV. And he can't turn it off.
Oh, it's so
and he's doing the weather.
Yeah, I'm just like, this is stupid. This is like, because at that point, obviously, we're not clued into the fact that it's a double cross. Right. So we're thinking that this is a legit op, and this is, and I'm like, these guys are in the CIA. This is dumb. Like, how stupid is this? Like,
apparently, at the end there was 6 minutes more comedy. I read. It's like if there was more comedy like that, we don't need it.
Yeah, I read the same thing. I read that the actual the house section was a little lighter for longer, because really, like you have the first they come over and it seems like, oh, okay. Then you have the first dinner, it's awkward as fuck, and then by the next day they're kicking dogs in the pool.
It just man, it makes sense that these guys, the producers, all come from B movies. Because the story makes no sense. It's so hackneyed, and there's so much like TNA for like no reason. Let's just throw some shirtless people in there, and no one's gonna care about the fact that our story makes no sense.
And I don't know if it's because I'm just old and I don't really care about that anymore. But I was just like, I don't want to see any of this. Just like, this is stupid. I don't need this sex scene. Who cares? Like, it was just like,
it wasn't even a sex scene. It was just like topless conversation.
She takes some gum off and puts it on the headboard.
If I was Tanner watching, I'd be like, get the fucking gum off my bed.
So I could be wrong, but there's a scene before the sex scene with Joe Cardona or whatever, where him and his wife are like in the tub, and I'm pretty sure they're inferring that she's giving him a hand job. If you could kind of see her hand doing something, and I thought the same thing. I'm like, why are you fucking shoving this down our face? Is it only because she's an attractive blonde in the 80s that we have to think that that these two married people are just constantly jerking each other off? And you're right. The gum comes out of the mouth, and then the other wife, Dennis Hopper. We did an episode on our Insider Patreon not too long ago about the Chainsaw Massacre Part 2, where Dennis Hopper seemed to be running on pure cocaine, and in this movie, he seems to be running on full on tranquilizers. Like they didn't need Dennis Hopper for this. They could have had any other actor play that role.
I think my note is that a lot of people did this for low salary because they wanted to work with Peckinpah. So maybe it was just a small role Hopper's not in it that much. He's like, probably 2 weeks of work, maybe 2.5, 3. So yeah. So he's probably not even on set that much. And they're at one location where they're at the house. So I agree with you, John. It just seemed like he was just there to be there. And it wasn't really, he wasn't given a lot to do. So he was just kind of like, okay, I'm this plastic surgeon that hates my wife, but we do cocaine together. I didn't get that. I didn't get all of that at all.
Yeah, I'm going to say it again. It's a fucking mess. This movie's a mess.
I thought it was his girlfriend. And then it was like, oh, it's his wife. And I'm like, what is happening? I don't like, she's acting like she's like his mistress, like their whole relationship. And then even Joe's wife with the woman with the gum, it's like even she's acting like his mistress. They don't act like husband and wife. I don't get it. I don't get it.
I think one of the greatest lines in the entire movie, and I laughed out loud when it was said because I just thought it was so odd, was when at one point in the cabin in the house when everything was going wrong, Meg Foster character and her son. By the way, her real son, who's never acted again. That was Meg Foster's real son.
Which is why he has 2 different names in the movie.
Does he really?
His character's name is supposed to be Carl, but I think she keeps calling him Sam because that's his real name. So nice. they just let him.
Way to go, Meg.
You blue-eyed bitch, as they said in this. So at one point they've got her and the son in the bedroom, and they're all at the door banging on the door, and the Cardona character's like the hothead, and he's really banging on the door, and he screams at her something, and she says one of the best lines ever. She goes, "Get away from the door, Joe Cardona." And I just thought that's just so fucking odd. Like who says anybody's full name?
I was laughing at the line. I don't know if it was Craig T. Nelson. It was one of the guys, because it was when they were in the house, and he was like, "Whoever's fingering us is a lot of pull." And I'm like, "What?"
Yeah.
It was in the parking lot when they met the Russian.
Okay, yeah. I was just like, "What? Huh? Why are we saying this?"
My favorite line in the movie was done by Tanner's wife when after they saves her from the botched kidnapping, where she just goes, "What the fuck just happened?"
Yeah.
And that was my exact same reaction after that chase. I was like, "What the fuck just happened?"
Well, that's the thing too. That's another thread that just kind of gets left, because I think we all assume that that's just Facet trying to get them back at the house and trying to do a fake.
I mean, yeah, by the end of the movie, yeah.
But they never really reveal that guy's not dead. You know what I mean? They never really kind of give you that sense of, no, we set them up. But that's what it felt like.
Or even if the guy died, like somehow during that whole thing, and Facet, later on, someone says something, he's like, "You're expendable." You know what I mean? Like there's so many corners cut, and nothing moves back to anything that makes sense in the end. It really is like such a strange movie. It's such a strange movie. I respect you guys as podcasters, and I feared that I was going to get on this show tonight, and you guys were going to be like, "Oh man, here's a classic that we both somehow." Butler obviously was born 20 years later, but we both obviously missed. And man, what a great thing. And I'm like, "Oh, these guys are going to love this movie," and I'm fucked because I'm gonna have to come out. I'm gonna have to admit I don't understand what the fuck's happening in this movie.
You just don't get it, John. Yeah. It's so avant-garde.
You don't get it. That's why it's so good, because you just don't understand it. No,
it's nouveau spy thriller.
No, this is one of those movies where I've done this before with other films, where you just turn to someone and be like, I know I'm pretty intelligent. This is wrong, right? There's something wrong here, because this is just I'm not connecting with this film.
Yeah.
But like this dumb.
Yeah, but there's movies that I've seen that are just out there, but there's a story there. You can still see it. There's still the thread of the story. You may not like it. You may not like the one of the movies that comes to mind for me is, I don't know if you guys saw the movie Annette, the musical with Adam Driver, where you never saw that one? Okay. Where he's his wife and they have a doll, and the doll becomes his wife. It's weird. It's very odd. But I could understand it. I knew what they were trying to say. I knew the story there. So this script is troubled, John. This script is all over the place. And no matter what they do, they can't fix that, because there are threads that just, they introduce stuff and they go away. There are situations that we're meant to know something, and it's never confirmed. Like the whole stuff of Facet. Like we're all sitting here going, the kidnapping was fake, right? But they never confirm it, and that just means they just didn't know what they were. They didn't know what they were doing.
And like we always talk about in the podcast, we always talk about like, oh, this film is ripe for a remake or something when it's bad, or like, hey, there's stuff that could be done better. I think this is just not something that can be. Mm-hmm. This needs to stay forgotten.
Well, I mean, I'm sure the book isn't this bad. I wouldn't mind if they redid the book. Like if they got the book again and try to remake it.
I guess it's one of his shortest books.
Well, I'm just saying, I'm sure the book's not convoluted.
I like the Bourne Identity series that he did, and even the spin-off novels that came after. But I've never read anything other than the Bourne novels from him.
This movie also had a long development period, because it was from the early 70s. And I don't know if you guys are familiar with Dalton Trumbo. You remember what's his face played him in a movie?
Bryan Cranston played him.
Yeah. So he wrote a screenplay for a producer, for George Leto, the producer of the 70s. And, obviously nothing happened from there. And then horror filmmaker William Castle first bought the rights. And he actually asked Ludlam to write the script, and Ludlam said no. So this movie, the idea of making this into a film had been around for 10 years, almost 10 plus years. So it was in the hopper in development. Many people had the chance.
Well, I read that he said no initially, but then I also read that he offered to do it for free later on.
Yes.
When it was already going to be a movie?
When they were doing it here.
Yeah.
To fix
and they were like, nah, what we got is great, man.
That's what I'm saying. The producers.
I know you wrote the story, but we improved on it in every way.
Yeah. I just think the producers, that's probably even another part of it. Not just the script, but the producers were not strong. And I think that they just were not the right ones to helm the ship, maybe.
This is too complicated for a B. I feel like a B, if you're into B movies, you need to do something. This is so convoluted. You should probably do something a little easier than this, where there's so many wheels spinning and so many parts to the plot.
Another problem I had, and I think it's not his fault, but I think it's because he's been typecast so much, is that I had almost a hard time with Rutger Hauer being the good guy of the group, because he just has the reputation, and he also just kind of has the face to kind of, I could picture him I could picture him in Craig T. Nelson's roles being switched. Because I can almost picture Rutger Hauer being a dangerous guy a little bit more than Craig T. Nelson. Although, look, Craig T. Nelson, when he fights, he becomes a fucking tiger. That's wonderful.
Craig T. Nelson's also like 6 foot, like 5.
Yeah, but Craig T. Nelson has been the bad guy in other movies, though.
He has.
I mean,
Action Jackson. Yeah, no, he has. But I just,
yes.
I don't know. I think that's my fault, but I had a hard time. Like kind of getting behind Rutger Hauer as kind of like this, not milquetoast guy, but like, I don't know. I also thought like when the chips fell and things started to happen, that he was going to be a little bit more, of not a warrior, but a little bit, and he's not,
he's a TV guy.
He's a TV guy.
But he gets out of the car when he's chasing down his wife's kidnapper.
Oh, runs straight at the shooter.
Runs right at him as he's firing his gun. I'm like, what's the plan here?
And doesn't
John?
Take any shots.
Yeah. And that's the
although
thing too.
Maybe that's the hint that gun was probably blanks, because he'd have been dead.
He has no problem blowing away Facet at the end. He's got no problem killing that guy with the bow. So I think if they introduced the fact that maybe Tanner was some kind of ex-military, I could believe that, but they don't, like you said, they don't say anything. So you're just led to believe that
he's a big game hunter, Field.
And they never show him doing it.
Right.
But also, like, he's an idiot, and so is Craig T. Nelson, because it's like, I'm getting out of here, and he runs toward the fire, and Tanner's like, no, and then every shot is just him running behind him getting shot as well.
What did John? This is from Mike John, because I know he hates this. And John Hurt,
as the FBI/CIA
English actor,
British.
Yeah, was he doing his voice? Was he doing his accent?
He was just being John Hurt. And this is the first. This is the second movie we've done where there's a British guy as a CIA or FBI agent. It's just like, no, what?
Mm-hmm.
You got to explain this to me, because you can't just do that.
I couldn't tell if he was trying to hide it and he was just doing a bad job of it.
There was no way.
Up talking.
He was just straight up John Hurt.
Yeah,
straight up. Like, I don't care. I'm doing this because it's whoever directed it. I'm just gonna do my voice.
The opening. Did you guys did you love the exposition dump in the opening of the movie when they're just kind of like laying it all out there?
No, because that's what made it so boring and so convoluted. Oh yes, his wife was killed because she knew something with the Polish. Oh, does she know? Does he know? No. But do you know? Do you know? Do I know?
It felt like a scene out of Burn after reading. It was just like, okay, here we're going to show you everything that's happening now, and you're immediately, no matter what, going to realize that this Danforth guy is the bad guy, whether or not you know it or not. He's the bad guy.
If they immediately say he's on the take with the KGB. Does he know I'm on the take? No, he doesn't know I'm on the take. Where's the drama then? Where's the stakes?
It's a mess.
I did like the line, although it feels like straight from the book. The truth is a lie that hasn't been found out. I do like that line, although it just feels like they just took it right out of the copy and pasted it right out of the book and put it in the script. That feels like a novel line.
That's like the line, everyone thinks they're right deep down inside. Everyone does. And then the response is, don't we all? Yeah, that's what he fucking said.
Yeah.
He just said everyone feels like they're right. I just wanted, I yelled at the screen when he said that. I was so mad. Some of the dialogue is so bad.
Well, I will tell you this. You're not alone. Roger Ebert did not like this film. Get ready. Here we go. I do not understand this movie. I sat before the screen, quiet, attentive, and alert, and gradually a certain anger began to stir inside me because the movie was not holding up its side of the bargain. It was making no sense. I don't demand that all movies make sense. I sometimes enjoy movies that make no sense whatsoever, if that's their intention. But a thriller is supposed to hold together in some sort of logical way, isn't it? I mean, that's basically this whole episode. That's what we're saying here. Absolutely.
Yeah, every once in a while, being a listener to your show, I'll see that you guys have like a shorter episode, and I'll listen to it. And I'll go, well, what happened? Like these guys can talk for an hour, and I see sometimes why some movies just like you swing out talking about it because there's it's kind of, I don't want to say so bad, but it's so egregious in all of its faults that like that's all you can really talk about with it, and that's it.
Well, is there anything in this movie you guys like? Anything that you're like, oh, I dug I dug the fact that as opposed to most 70s or early 80s spy thrillers, this was an hour and 45 minutes and not 2 hours. Because if this was 2.5 hours, I'd be very fucking angry. It was short. So at least it did that. But I got to be honest. I mean, you have a good cast, but they're kind of wasted on this material.
Yeah.
So yeah, a decent cast, but there's no, you're not going to point. I would really like to find somebody who's a fan of this movie that could point out like, oh, this aspect of it was really great, or this, or this performance. There's nothing to grab onto it.
John, it just got a Blu-ray release. Clearly, there's a base. I like the character of John's wife, Allie, Meg Foster's character. At least at first, until she gets kidnapped. I like that she says what's on her mind. She stands up for herself.
She kills a guy with a bow and arrow. Yeah, she does it with her husband.
She slaps Cokie in the face, and then she starts murdering.
She punches her.
She belts that lady, which good. And then, which apparently she actually did in one take, and she got back up once.
That's fine. Do another take. Shook it off. Let's do it again. Yeah. There you go.
But yeah, then she starts murdering people with the crossbow. I'm a little disappointed they went down the rote version of like, let's kidnap you, so that Tanner can expose these government lies, which is also kind of his job that he would have just done anyway. But up until then, she was a very strong female character for an early 80s, thriller kind of film like that.
Hey, she ends up on the poster as opposed to what I thought. So
that's true. Yeah.
Well, you definitely have a lot of strong actors in this film. You're just giving them nothing to do, especially like the stuff between Craig T. Nelson's character and Dennis Hopper and Chris Serrano. Like it feels like they don't have a script when they're together. It feels like they're just spitballing. Yeah.
Just get mad about stuff.
It doesn't feel like there's any kind of cohesion to their conversations, but like you can see like where it could be. Like you're like, oh, this, like they're good characters, but they're not doing anything. They're not giving anything.
I don't know. Like Chris Sarandon, I like him at other things, but Joe is just a fucking douche.
Well, he's a jerk, yeah.
Flying off the rail, so stupid about handling everything. His character just made me mad in every scene he was in. Just die. If the whole RV had to blow up just to kill him, I was happy. Like, he was just too douchey. Just absolutely. Like, if you're supposed to believe any of them could be turned back to the side of the United States, quote unquote, like, he couldn't. He needs to die.
You can't even believe that any of them are friends. The only reason maybe you can buy that Nelson's character, I'm gotta figure out his name again because I keep forgetting it.
Osterman.
Geez, Mike. So just, with Osterman, you can believe that him and Tanner are friends because he keeps telling him, that he's his friend. He keeps saying like, confide in me, like,
let's talk. Yeah.
Right. So that's the only way I believe that. Other than that, I don't believe that these guys are friends, even from the get-go, as soon as they get there.
The whole movie's pointed out as like a mystery of like, which one of these friends is your true friend. So that's what I thought it was going to be over the weekend. Which one will betray me? Like almost like a thriller version of Clue. And you don't get that because Dennis Hopper's character is a nothing. Joe is insane. And Craig T. Nelson just automatically goes, "Hey, bud, how you doing? I want to be a friend. What's going on?"
He's supposed to be obviously the de facto leader who has it all together.
That's why it was his weekends back.
Who keeps it cool and like, he plays it close to the chest, but like we're just inferring that. Like we're like, I don't think that's ever in there. I think maybe that was the intent when they put this movie together, but
I know two things about his character. Dope ass mustache and he can hold his breath underwater for about 15 to 20 minutes.
And karate.
Yeah,
He
bear
does-
sounds.
Bear karate. I forgot about bear karate. Which let's talk about the cinematography, because it's especially egregious during those action shots. It starts during the car chase when they use the same 3 shots over and over and over, and also maybe the editing as well. When that pole, that construction truck carrying the pole goes through the car.
Oh, dude,
I don't need to see it 5 times.
I'm so glad you said that. Yeah,
different, consistent. Like the continuity sucks.
Yes. So yeah, the what was great about it was the pole is going through the windshield of the station wagon, and other actions happening around it. They keep cutting to the other action happening around it, which is happening in real time. But then they keep showing the same shot of the pole going through the station wagon, like
over and over
in some weird loop. Yeah, I didn't write that down. I'm so glad you brought that up because it was maddening.
Oh, there's so many motions of slow, like Craig T. Nelson trying to open the pool house door, when he first gets back from the woods. He opens the door in slow motion as if they were deciding, you know what? I don't think he would just let's ramp that down to a ridiculous degree. And I'm sorry, whatever film stock they used, or maybe it's just old and they haven't cleaned it up from whatever version we watched. It looked terrible. It looked like you ramped down the slow motion, but I don't think it was meant to be slow motion. And then you slow-mo and then speed up the bat hitting the glass, and it just looks terrible. And the camera's shaking that whole time. Like they couldn't even keep the camera steady for the shot, but they're like, well, we broke the glass, which they actually did. They busted up that farmhouse, which they weren't supposed to.
They weren't supposed to, yeah. Well, I got some good news for you, Butler. If you want to watch it a little bit clearer, someone just told me that there's a Blu-ray out on this now. So
I gotta check that shit out. I guess you can watch the 2 versions side by side on the Blu-ray and see what the original cut actually was.
You do that and let me know.
To answer your question, Butler, they shot on 35 millimeter. That was the negative format, and the camera they used was a Panaflex camera and lenses by Panavision. Okay, that being
Did they
said,
drop it a couple times first?
That being said, and I haven't seen much of Sam Peckinpah films, but I know his type of style. What you guys are talking about is his style. That's how he shoots action. That's how it is.
I know there's slow motion in Straw Dogs. I've seen Straw Dogs before.
Right.
Maybe because there's not it's not an action movie.
Right.
But I don't remember them going back and showing the same shot.
I said, I just know that's part of his style. So that's all. I agree with you guys. It does because he holds on a couple shots. And you're just like, all right, get to the point. My notes in that stuff was the Foley work, how it was so loud and crisp and just kind of like jarring, just jarring and everything like that. I was like, okay, I get it. I mean, I don't mind style if it's consistent. So that didn't bother me as much. But I know that couple that with the other rest of the mess in the film, it adds up. I get that.
How about the fact that the surveillance truck is bigger on the inside, like the TARDIS?
Yeah.
Well, fans of Doctor Who will understand that.
And John Hurt is a doctor, so
that is true. He's the war doctor.
The war doctor.
So his violence makes sense.
Yeah.
But I don't really think you can start claiming you know Doctor Who. You haven't watched any of the new episodes.
I'm getting to it.
All right. So I know usually we talk about Why It's Forgotten, but I'm actually going to ask this first, and then we'll get to Why It's Forgotten. Would you recommend this film to anybody? Would you even? All right, Butler, don't laugh. Would you recommend this film to anybody at all?
We'll start with John.
Okay.
As a side part of doing this podcast, when I put this up that we're doing this episode, some of my listeners will seek it out and listen to it.
Good. They should revisit it.
And you know what? That's fine. Revisit it. I do apologize. But you guys have stuck with us through other things that have been a little rough. But that being said, outside of the podcast, no fucking way. Because there's nothing for me to recommend to anybody. There's not if this was like a convoluted mess, but like the action scenes were incredible, that would be one thing. I could say it with a caveat. Hey, look, it's not a great movie, but this is awesome in it. Or if the performances were so fucking solid, but everything else was a mess, I could say, hey, look, the writing's not great, but everybody's knocking out of the park. I can't do that. I could only recommend it as a humorous thing. Like, you know what? If you want to watch a movie that makes no fucking sense, has a really convoluted plot, and it just doesn't come together, check out the Osterman Weekend. That's what I could say.
Well, see, this would be a good double feature. Like you watch a really good one, and then you watch a one that's not so good, so you kind of make fun of it. Like I don't mind watching. I don't seek out bad films, but I don't mind when I watch bad films because it makes you understand what works and what doesn't work. And you need to break down what doesn't work in film sometimes to understand what does work and why things work. I do like seeing, you didn't like seeing Rutger Hauer as a good guy because it's you're not used to that, but I do like seeing the Dutch Paul Newman as, in a different type of role. I like Craig T. Nelson a lot, and I don't see Craig T. Nelson enough in movies. So when I get to see something I haven't seen him in, I'm like, awesome. So in just kind of seeing like actors I like, I'm okay with it. I do, like I said, I think Peckinpah is the attraction here for me because I haven't watched a lot of his films and I want to. And if I catch some stinkers, I catch some stinkers. But that being said, John, I agree with you. I mean, all your points are valid. Butler, would you even recommend this to anybody, or are you just of the same ilk of no way?
It's so hard to try to recommend this to somebody. Like you could say a double feature for movies like this, but I don't know if I could double feature movies like this just because they're so slow.
Sure.
Generally speaking, like you said, it's interesting Rutger Hauer as like a good guy. So if you're a fan of Rutger Hauer, this is a good movie. He's in a lot of it. But other than that, other than saying, yeah, here's what's wrong with a movie, here's where you do a mystery wrong. It is a great example of how you do a thriller wrong. You look at, Three Nights of the Condor or something like that from a similar time period. And then you go, all right, here's how they did it right. And here's how you're doing it kind of incorrectly. Here's what they're getting wrong. And you can clearly pick apart. I don't understand the plot. I don't understand this and that. Their motivations are murky. And then you can try to improve upon that. So as an exercise in filmmaking, yes. And like if I was teaching film school and I was going to show somebody one that needs improvement, vast improvement, maybe I'd show them this. But other than that, the general person, even if they like movies like this from that time period, I would say no.
Aside from the reason that it's not very good, why are we saying that this movie is forgotten? You can't say it's because it stinks. Not because of that. Give me another reason, John. Tough one, I know.
It is tough because I think a lot of it has to do with probably what we just said. Like word of mouth means a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And if there aren't people out there recommending this to other people, 40 years later, this is almost 40 years old, it kind of dies on the vine. Yeah, I don't know if I could say anything more than that. I think that maybe the fact that it didn't do really great in the box office, plus the fact that critically it wasn't really loved, it just kind of got swallowed up by time.
We talked about before the podcast how we both didn't like Black Adam, the Dwayne Johnson film, but that movie made money. So a movie not being good still can make money. I think you're right. No.
Right, but that has the superhero.
Sure.
40 years from now, when people are looking back at all these superhero movies, they're going to go and go, oh, look, Black Adam. That was one of them. It has at least the tie to that. This is just some rando thriller from 1983,
Well, it's also a different time period too. So me using Black Adam as an example is probably bad because it has the hype behind it. It's coming out. It's everyone's souping it up. So they're trying to get a big opening weekend. With something like the Osterman Weekend, it's not. They can't do that. They don't do that back then. I think what I was trying to say is that I agree with you in terms of your word of mouth. You go see this film on a Friday and you're like, it was okay. You're not going to tell your buddy, hey, check this movie out. So I think because it's not solid, that word of mouth, like you said, goes away. And I think that for a movie back in the early 80s, I think word of mouth is a strong way indicator for films to be successful. Whereas now it's more about hype and getting people there to start.
I think we have like proof right here, right now, not Butler, because Butler's younger, but at the beginning of this whole thing, you're my age and you said you've never heard of this before.
Right.
Well, I mean, that says something right there.
Yeah. Yeah. Mike, what are your thoughts? Same question.
I think that along those lines of it just not the word of mouth, I think that you don't have star power, that you're going back to it regardless of word of mouth or reviews. There's also something to be said of, Black Adam sucks, but it's got The Rock. Well, I like The Rock, so I'm going to watch it.
This is the Dutch Paul Newman. What?
Rutger Hauer, this is after Blade Runner?
Yeah, 1 year after.
1 year after Blade Runner. So, I mean, he's still not really Rutger Hauer yet. And even then, if that's your biggest name, that's not a huge name in terms of lasting star power. Ask anyone my age, what's Coach? They're not going to be able to tell you anything about Coach. Maybe they'll be like me and be like, It's a show my parents used to watch. There's a couple of end scenes on burnt VHSs before the Saturday night movie came on that they recorded over. But like, it doesn't have that star power where I'm going to go back and watch an old Paul Newman movie or an old Robert Redford movie or, hey, Sylvester Stallone's in this or stuff like that. You don't have any of those huge actors that are just transcend time like Al Pacino, Robert De Niro. And I think that a movie like this really needs that star power to continue existing in this day and age, in terms of word of mouth and general knowledge of its existence, without it being a transcendent film. Even if it was just an okay film, which it's not, it needs that star power.
Well, this could also have been a film that they were trying to see if Rutger Hauer's star power was strong. You know, like how sometimes you see films that come out with people they've never been the lead before, so it's kind of a litmus test.
Yeah.
This could be one of those films that maybe that's what but again, I go back to the producers. I just don't think they were strong. And I think that they probably did make good decisions. So, you know, they case in point, they took a script the screenwriter didn't like, and they were like, no, we're going to shoot this. We're going to shoot this. I know it's a piece of crap. No, it's perfect. So
I also think having a director is at the end of his rope, kind of taking naps on set and stuff like that.
Well, it's name recognition.
It's a diminished product, but yeah.
And it's unfortunate. It's sad. When I read that note, I was like, that sucks. That's a bummer. That was what was happening. But you know, it is what it is. Okay, Butler, where can they find us?
You can find us at ForgottenCinemaPodcast.com or ForgottenEntertainment.com, as we are part of the Forgotten Entertainment family. While you're there, check out On the QT, a podcast with John, where he talks about Quentin Tarantino. You're on it. I'm on it once. You're on it once. A whole bunch of other people are on it. It's great. Check it out. And while you're listening to The Pint, wherever you're listening to The Pint, because that is what this is, like, rate, subscribe, all that good stuff helps The Pint grow. Usually I say that about our podcast, but for that, I'll just say, listen to Forgotten Cinema.
And join us next. Oh, there is no next time.
No next time. Hey, wait, let me take over real quick for a second, though. Seriously. So we've done 8 episodes this year. We have, just as always, the 4th annual Forgotten February coming up in early 2023. A little bit different this year. We're going to take, you guys will have an episode. We'll do an episode with other folks from other shows on Forgotten Entertainment. But I just wanted to say real quick, thank you guys for, you know, having me on your show at one point, doing these episodes. They've been, I thought it was a good idea to kind of do the takeover thing because I enjoy your show and I thought it was a way to get like involved and, you know, get other people to hear it. These episodes have all been fun. Not all the movies have been great, but they've all been fun. And I think we ended off on the biggest stinker of any of them. So it was a good way to end 2022. Pardon me.
Well, it was a movie that I never seen before, so I always like watch. One of the things with Forgotten Cinema, like most of the movies I've seen, but every once in a while we'll catch one that I haven't seen, and I always like those episodes because I'm always like, "Ooh, good! This is something new." I don't know what to expect, so I don't mind the movie being bad because I never saw it before.
Well, it was fun, so I appreciate both of you guys.
Well, thanks for having us, John. And you know, we'll be around. We may not be doing our show for a while, but we won't disappear. We'll be around.
All right.
And the show's still airing until like end of April.
Yes, that's right.
Still rolling along.
We're done recording the end of December because we're pushing through to get it done. But the show ends the end of April, so there'll still be episodes in 2023.
Season 16, correct?
Correct. Yeah, that's coming up at the start, I believe. Yeah.
All right, I'm halfway through your brain candy episode right now. So
smile, it's free. All right, then, everyone, have a great week. Enjoy this. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Enjoy all the episodes that we have to offer. I'm Mike Field.
I'm Mike Butler.
And this has been Forgotten Takeover of the Pint.
Happy New Year, motherfuckers.